I'm Melissa Harris Perry, and this is the Black Review. Now, what is the Black Review? It is one of the many ways that we're going to come together and respond to the emergency that we face. And yes, we are in a state of emergency. Our democracy, our communities, our families, even our very lives are at stake. So for the next 7 days, I want you to meet me right here on the Color of Change Instagram for an unfiltered breakdown of what is happening and the ways that Black communities can take action. Right here in this space, we're going to take just 15 minutes out of the day to make sense of our political realities, to stay informed, and to find a little joy and to get involved as we build power in this critical moment. So we're going to make a sense of what is happening. And we're going to do it by adding a little historic context, looking for meaning behind the headlines, and leaving here with some concrete action items and maybe a little bit of inspiration too. This is our space to regroup and recenter, so let's get started. So first off, are y'all good? Because last night was a lot. Did you stay up and watch the election returns? Did you have maybe one too many? Has it became clear that no winner would be declared? Have you been drinking coffee all day just to push through the exhaustion? Because I am right there with you. I mean, all of this leaves all of us feeling dehydrated and lethargic and a little disoriented. But I need you to take a deep breath because we have work to do. You see, there's no doubt about it. Black people are driving change in our country. This summer, Black people initiated, organized, and led the largest mass demonstrations in American history. Despite attempts to derail and suppress Black voters, we came out to the polls in record numbers. Let's take Georgia. More than 1 million Black voters cast their ballots early. And these Black Georgia voters were not just working on individual initiative. They were a result of a decade of Black-led voter registration and mobilization efforts, which transformed this former Confederate state into a legitimate swing state. And in my state, where I live, in North Carolina, man, we have lived through 7 years of sustained efforts by our state legislature to implement voter ID laws, to slash early voting, and to make it harder to access the polls. Black-led civil rights organizations have never relented in the fight against these efforts. We have pushed back and we've won crucial victories to dismantle our state's monster voter suppression bill and to maintain unfettered access to our right as citizens to vote. And the result was this year, record numbers of Black voters casting their ballot by mail or showing up to vote in person, which makes me think about all those Black poll workers and postal workers across the nation. And when polling places were closed and consolidated, and when postal budgets were slashed and shrunk, these Black heroes of democracy just kept working. And they risked their health and their lives to ensure that our votes would be cast and could be delivered. Black organizers and activists didn't just make sure that Black folks could vote. They also put issues of racial justice at the very center of the political agenda. Unafraid of the vicious backlash and the racist mischaracterizations, they simply forced the issue. We are in a moment of Black power, intellectually, culturally, politically. In the long history of our nation, periods of growing Black power have always been met with attempts to reimpose the limitations of white supremacy. Take the period of Reconstruction. This is an era when Black folk who have known 2 centuries of intergenerational chattel bondage finally gain an emerging foothold in citizenship. And the response is a swift and vicious and brutal era of disenfranchisement, Jim Crow, and racial violence. This era is a time that historians of the Black experience refer to as the nadir. This moment is not that moment, but this moment is an emergency, a familiar disaster where citizens and leaders in a democracy seem willing to suspend their own rules, tear down their own structures in order to suppress and oppress and hold back the power of organized, courageous Black people. This is an emergency, but I do not want us to be afraid. This is an emergency, and so I want us to be ready. So let's dig in to today's call to action. Number one, let's stay clear about the challenges we are facing. This is not really just about one candidate. This is about Black power and white supremacy. This is about democracy and suppression. Our first action is to keep pushing for deeper analysis. Now, the second is to cultivate our individual and collective identities as meaningful participants in shaping our future. See, voting is not just about once every 4 years or even once every 2 years. Being a voter is an identity. Know who you are. You are someone who is willing to answer the call to action. And to do this, head on over to Color Change. The website will help you to ensure that you and your community think and act like voters all year long. Learn how to get involved in the active campaigns of Color of Change around the year. And number 3, insist that every vote is counted. Every single precious vote. Join with Color of Change to fight to ensure that democracy remains in action by counting every vote. Make sure that Black votes are not erased. Text news to 55156 to learn how you can take action to protect democracy and Black communities.